Welcome to today's special edition of Can We Talk? I'm your host, Cheryl Cook, and we're live, and this is a candidate forum for Sarasota County Commission, and my special guests today are Lourdes Ramirez and Alexandra Coe. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting us.
And thank everybody out there for joining us. Now, I sent out some invitations to the opponents of Lourdes and also Alexandra. I got no response from the opponents, and I did send them to their official email addresses. So we're going to go with the people that did respond and are here today. So let's just get right into this program. We do have people in the audience waiting to ask questions. So why don't y'all introduce yourself, the seat you're running for, and let's get going on this.
I'm Alexandra Coe, and I'm running for County Commission District 2.
My name is Lourdes Ramirez. I'm running for Sarasota County Commission District 4. Now, county commission races are county-wide. Even though we are running for particular seats, it is everyone can vote for us. Although we're going to be part of a primary, the Republican primary.
Okay, and now tell everybody when the day of the primary is, and when do you think the absentee ballots will start going out?
The primary is August 28th, and it's really important for everyone to go out and vote. And the absentee ballots actually start this week for military families and next week for the general public. But I think it's really important to note that a lot of people don't go out for the primary. They usually wait for the general election, and that's a mistake. Because for the primary, there are certain races, especially school board races, in which is determined at the primary. If a school board or there's a circuit judge race has just two opponents, then whoever wins the primary is the one who becomes the elected official. So I wouldn't wait to November. For some people who prefer it to November, I would try to get an absentee ballot for the primary and vote.
Yeah, that is the one thing that people don't realize. You know, the primary is really important, and especially this August 28th, we have a really exciting primary. We have more Republicans running for office in the primary than we've had in a long time. And then, like Lourdes said, the school board will be decided at the primary. There's a possibility they'd have a runoff, right?
Well,
is that what it is
districts.
if there's something like that happens?
There's three districts that's going to be on the primary for school board, and one of them has four candidates, so that one will probably go to a runoff. But the other two only have two candidates each, so that's the one in which will be determined.
Yeah. So it's critical. Everybody, get out and vote.
Okay, so let's take the first question from our audience member, and remember when you're responding, make sure you identify yourself so that everybody knows who is speaking.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so first, Mr. Hummer, can you come up and ask a question? And before you speak, Mr. Hummer, I just want to make sure everybody knows this is mostly a South County event, and it is community radio. So these are real community members that are asking questions. Mr. Hummer.
Good afternoon. I have a quick comment first before my question. As a registered voter, I kind of feel left out and disrespected by the other candidates that didn't show up here today. Now, I understand that every politician cannot make every event, but I think that courtesy is number one on the list, and they should have at least responded, giving their thanks for the invitation. And I just, as a voter, I feel neglected and disrespected, so I just wanted to make that point. Thank you, ladies, for showing up. My question is, what is your number one concern and the issue that you want to address the most once you're elected a commissioner?
All right, I'll go first since everybody's looking at me. Well, my number one concern is whatever the number one concern of the people is. And through a citizen survey last year, the citizens expressed that growth and population and increased traffic are the most important things to them. And we all see it. We all see what's happening with development in our community, and development that is profiting a few people and not profiting the citizens by increasing our quality of life, by protecting our property rights. Some of the people in this room, we were talking about the increase in flooding that's happening all over the county. So it's It's interesting. The county commission is supposed to do a lot of things for our citizens, but it does seem like the bulk of what the county commission has done for decades now, or at least more than a decade, is growth and development issues. And I really want to have a better understanding of how we can shift what's going on with current development, because we do want to have growth. There are things that people in different communities need. For example, Northport needs a hospital. There are things that we need, but the way that we're seeing development happen, I want to see that happen differently. I want to see a better kind of development for Sarasota County.
Lourdes Ramirez?
And I agree with that too. I think the number one concern in Sarasota County is overdevelopment. Like Alexandra said, growth is not a bad thing, but just not at any cost. And it seems like we're losing financially because of the fact that development being the way it's being done today, which is sprawl, doesn't generate the income it needs to pay for the government services that it's going to need. And so we have a major issue of the fact that development doesn't pay its own way and it's being subsidized by the taxpayers. And that's got to change, of course. And then the quality of life also is being hurt with increased traffic, and it's going to get more so as some of these new developments that has been approved come online. A lot of people don't realize that in 4 developments alone around Clark Road and south, it's going to generate almost 30,000 homes. And where are they going to go? They're going to go on the same roads that are not being expanded, and that's going to be a problem. And of course, we're losing our quality, our brand. That when we start to reduce our quality of life, Sarasota starts to get hurt. And people are not going to want to invest here, their businesses or buy homes, if everyone starts talking about how bad the traffic is here, or that there are flooded streets, or that it's just not being handled well. So I think the number one thing I would handle will be, how do we plan for growth? How do we plan for the people coming in? How do we pay for that? And how do we handle all the problems that come along with that?
Yeah, if I could quickly add, the other thing is we're building the wrong kind of development. We're building this 1990s style cookie cutter gated communities. We're building homes that we already know have inferior indoor air quality components to it. We need like a whole new innovation about how we build spaces for people, how we're building communities, and that's what I don't see we're doing in Sarasota. We're not promoting innovation. You know, we have all kinds of young people. We struggle to think, how do we keep young people here? Yet we're not doing the things that we need to do with them. We're not spawning even young developers. There's all kinds of people that want to get into construction in this town, and their voices are silenced because they can't compete with these big developers or these out-of-town developers. So as county commissioner, I would really want to figure out, how can I promote these people that live here and work here? How do we bring smaller developers to the table? How do we create partnerships with them to create unique communities for us? The Florida House is a fine example. We've had the Florida House for over 25 years, and we have yet to build a single community that builds homes according to the Florida House. We should have been doing that 10 years ago. And we have all the technology available to even build communities that surpass the example of the Florida House. So we need something completely different.
Let me jump in there and ask a question, since you all are talking about this particular topic. I saw both of you at a recent event in Englewood, and it was talking about the people are very concerned about rezoning. And I know, Lourdes, you were very adamant about the Siesta Key, I guess it was a rezoning. Can both of you comment about what the current county commission in Sarasota is moving toward, and maybe what you would change about what they're doing? And I'm specifically talking about the Englewood area and Siesta Key. Lourdes Ramirez.
Well, the problem is we have a plan. And we have a comprehensive plan, we have a zoning code. But the development community, the big developers, I agree with Alexandra when she says a lot of the smaller developers don't get the same opportunities the big developers get. But the big developers constantly go before the county commission and constantly ask for variances and special exceptions and let's change the rules. That, of course, benefits them, doesn't benefit the community. And what happened on Siesta Key, we had a Siesta Key overlay district, just like Englewood has an overlay district, and it's constantly being chipped away at. Now, ours has existed for 20 years, and, you know, a big donor to the county commission went before them and said, you know, we want to change the rules so that he can build a building right up to the sidewalk. And now that's allowed for 3-story buildings, but of course he's looking at 8 stories, which will just change the way Siesta Key is going to be. You look at the city of Sarasota and see how they're building up to the sidewalk, and no, that's not what you want in the rest of the county. So, but it's just an indicator of what you've seen. And when I was in Englewood, and they were, again, talking about a rezoning for a special developer, it's the problem I see is these special exceptions, these variances that apply to these certain big donors. And I believe we need to start going back to planning and making it fair for all. And if we have a particular zoning, unless there's a disaster, there's really no reason to change it. People know what they purchased. Now to claim later, well, it doesn't work for me, or I paid too much, now you have to make changes on my behalf. That's not the role of the county government. County government is not to make a developer whole or profitable. They're only there to say, this is what you can build here, and the reason why we decided that this is what should be built here is for certain reasons, that whether it's the quality of life or that's what the infrastructure can handle. You know, so I, as a county commissioner, think we have to go back to planning, and I think we will have to start looking at these special exceptions and rules and say, okay, no more.
Well, I would add to that, you know, Lourdes touched on it. We have a lot of these community plans, these overlays and things like that for different areas throughout Sarasota County. And these things were gathered through citizen input and through staff at the county. And these were plans that were laid out for how people want different characters of their community to be. And so I would add to this, you know, to Lourdes' conversation about some of the special, you know, treatment that developers get. I don't think citizens are getting enough special treatment. You know, I see us over and over again, and I see the development community doing the same thing. They're coming in here, and the county commission is approving all of this stuff for people who don't even live here. And what about the people that already live here? And we need to really look at our neighborhoods in a very holistic way and go back to the citizens and say, what do you need? Okay, you say you need a hospital. Okay, you say you need this. You need more beach access. You need these kinds of things. We need to have a renewed vision for Sarasota County, because the pathway that we are going on now is a pathway that is driven by the profit of a few, by gathering taxes, by a government who's tax hungry, and they just see every $400,000 house as $5,000 worth of taxes. And in the meantime, everything that people in the communities want is just being pushed to the side. It doesn't matter. And then they try to sell it to us that we have to do this because growth is what we need. Growth is part of stimulating the economy. And growth is not stimulating the economy. These builders that are coming here, I've walked around downtown Sarasota. The vast majority of the people constructing those high rises are from out of town. The workers that are there are not local. So telling us that they're making these decisions to stimulate the economy is a lie. They're making these decisions because it's corruption, because we have allowed corruption in this county. And the only way we're going to change that is, one, to vote people in as county commission that truly represent the people, and also for everybody to get up and to start voting and starting to be engaged in the community, because otherwise, and we see it and we're afraid of it, we will lose everything that we value in this county.
You know, and these are very excellent statements as far as putting information out that people haven't heard before. I did hear recently somebody make a comment about current commissions saying they take from the needy and they give to the greedy.
I did not hear
So
that.
I'm only responding, I'm only telling you what residents are saying. I truly appreciate those responses, and I wonder if somebody else out there would want to ask a question. Oh, yes, young lady. And can you state your name?
Hi, my name is Tanya Mahalski. I've heard about the impact fees, and can you explain them? And also, do you feel that they are right at the current level, or if they're too much or too little?
Well, we'll take turns, I guess, on these questions.
Okay, so this is Alexandra.
This is Alexandra Coe.
Good.
We have continued to have these conversations about impact fees. We have continued to see people in the commission and within government, change the protocol for how impact fees are paid, what percentage of impact fees are paid. And whatever is going on with impact fees is not working. And I think some people think it's a simple fix. Like some people will say, oh, we just need to restore impact fees to 100%. But I think there's more pieces there's more parts to that moving wheel, because we're not letting development take responsibility for what is the consequences of development. I mean, I talk to so many homeowners associations who tell me about problems they have with flooding, with the way land was raised or not raised, the way retention ponds were dug. And these are things that are approved by the development. Somebody from county staff comes in and checks it off and says, that's good, that's good, that's good. And then when the development is complete, when the developer has made all of their money, they hand this over to the homeowners, and now the homeowners become responsible for all of the shortcomings, all of the corners that they cut. Those things now become the burden of the homeowners. And this is happening all over our county, and that's not right. So I want to understand all the moving parts of what's not going right with impact fees, because I don't support just increasing impact fees. I don't think that that's going to solve our problem. There's some other things going on that need to be addressed.
Well, I think this is the one which we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Right.
I believe that the impact fees, which is the fee the county charges them to pay for the infrastructure that they need to create when they created the new development. So when a new development, especially those east of I-75, needs a road to go there, and then they were like what one particular development went from 50 houses to 5,000 houses. Obviously, now they need an extra school, fire station, and so all of that has to be paid by that development. It shouldn't be paid by us, because that's the whole point. If you're going to add and impact a community, need an extra sheriff's deputy car, that development should pay for it. And back in the recession, the county, in order to stimulate the economy, decided to do away with it, and they've been putting it back, but not to the extent that they should have. In the meantime, they're approving all these developments and not having the full impact fees being paid. So that's one of the reasons why we're subsidizing new development. And I don't think it's enough. I think they should pay. And I think if people want to live in these new communities out east of I-75, then they go in knowing that they have to pay for that development and the roads for that development. And I think that's the reason why the developers don't want impact fees. It's not the fact that, yes, it would impact their profits, because there's only so much that they want to push onto the homeowners, but they're competing in sales with the standard existing homes that have been paying taxes for a long time, by the way. So it is known for them is like, if someone's going to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Sarasota, and it's going to be $350,000, and you have an opportunity of paying one that you don't have to pay $15,000 or $20,000 worth of impact fees, you probably go for that home. So I think the arguments that I hear that developers say, like, oh no, it's not fair, it is fair, and B, they're just more worried about competition than putting in what they should do, which is pay for the infrastructure that they need for their new development.
If I can just counter her, I don't really think that we disagree. I just think that it would be very easy to look at an area of development and know what the infrastructure would cost, right? They could do that. They could go in there and say, okay, if these 30,000 homes come into the area, we're going to need this, and this is what it's going to cost. And then somehow the government should be able to divide those costs among whatever projects are in the area. And maybe that's impact fees, maybe that's revisiting impact fees, but I'm just curious if there's something else, if maybe there's something that we're missing in there, because I think somewhere in that, maybe it's because they get these special favors where they decrease the impact fees. But if they come to us, which that's what Lourdes was saying, they come all the time and they're like, oh, we can't do this, we're not going to make enough money. Well, I would say, well, then you know what? That's probably not the right kind of development. Because if you can't come in here and you can't present a project to us and you don't fully understand the impacts of your project and what the responsibility is going to be, then you're probably not the right developer for Sarasota County. Yeah. And that's what I think, and I'm sure we agree with that. We completely agree with that.
We do.
So, it's just a matter of how do we do it? And obviously the way we're doing it now doesn't work. So we have to have something different and we have to stop what's going on.
And that's a question I'm going to ask in a few minutes, but we have a special call-in questioner.
Okay.
So let's see if this works. Hello, caller, are you on the telephone?
Hey, Cheryl, this is Rhonda.
Rhonda who?
Rhonda DeFranco.
Oh, Rhonda DeFranco. Hi, Rhonda.
Hey, how are y'all?
It's been a while.
We're good, but you are out of town. I know that you wanted to attend today's session, but thank you for joining us by the telephone. So did you have some questions?
Yeah, I have a question for each one of the candidates for Lourdes and Alex. Hey, Alex. Hey, Lourdes.
Hello.
How are y'all?
We're good. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for allowing me to ask a couple of questions of you, and they have to do with Northport particularly. Are you still there?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. I'd like to address Lourdes first with one of my questions. Do you have the time, Cheryl, for this?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. For Lourdes, now that the Northport Commissioners have approved public funding for the Braves Stadium, and they have also approved to move forward with Warm Middle Springs as a major tourist attraction. This has hit Northport taxpayers times 3 with city, county, and state public funding. And I'm sure West Villages feel the pain because it also hits them times 4. In addition, with this overburden to Northport taxpayers on these projects, there is the issue of the overwhelming traffic jams that are occurring now and in the future now that these are coming to the South County corridor. Lourdes, how would you handle the future need for the infrastructure to the South County corridor, such as River Road, as this will jeopardize the emergency evacuation of Northport and Eaglewood in the event of impending danger and more traffic?
Well, I think that it's important that people recognize the fact that the municipalities do pay full county taxes as well as the taxes for the municipality. And actually was a little disturbed when I heard that the county was shifting the parks back to the municipalities because you're not using all of government services when it comes to the county, and why are they pushing that additional burden onto you? So that aside, talking about why the counties hadn't focused on River Road and other infrastructure, especially knowing all of these roads are coming in. And that's part of it, as we were talking about before, it has to do with the fact that they hadn't been charging enough impact fees to these new developments that are coming in. When it comes to River Road, there were a lot of projects done over the years that the county could have avoided and then focused on River Road. Now, as I mentioned about that project in which somebody went from 50 houses to 5,000 houses, that's up that's up on Lakewood Ranch area, that's south of University Parkway. The county's been buying county right-of-way, spending millions on buying county right-of-way and paying for part of that infrastructure for a development that hasn't even been built yet. So we have to wonder why. That's where the campaign contributors come in, because obviously the people who run Lakewood Ranch campaign donate to the county commissioners heavily. So that's a problem, but there's also common sense. I live on Siesta, and I love the beach. And in 2012, the county decided to pay $27 million from the surtax to upgrade a beach that number one beach already. They could have postponed that. The beach was fine as it is. We were overcrowded then, and we're still overcrowded now. And taking that $27 million and put it towards River Road, because that was the emergency. They actually even set aside the need of the fire department for new radios to upgrade a beach. So as much as the beach is very pretty, it's something that could have been postponed. And as a county commissioner, those are the priorities I would look at. What's government's role? To make a beach beautiful, or to fix a road, which is an evacuation road, so that people are safer, because the River Road we know is not a safe road? That should have been the priority. And that's why I'm concerned about why the county commission starts focusing on the wrong things and not what they're supposed to do, which is fix our current infrastructure problems.
Am I allowed to comment on that, Rhonda, or no?
You want to add to that?
I do have a question for Alex.
Okay,
If I may. You there, Alex?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay. Since your opponent has refused to acknowledge invitations by CONA and address their issues of environmental in person, as well as he doesn't have a problem attending special interest events, what are your plans to reach out and listen and possibly act on behalf of the people who elect you, while setting aside special interest desires that are not necessarily in the best interest of conservation of the environment?
Well, I am a very big environmentalist, and I believe that we have made huge mistakes over the past couple decades, and particularly in the last 10 to 15 years. We have lost really valuable ecological systems. And in Florida, our ecology is our economy, and it baffles me why we have people on the county commission that don't understand this. And of course, the reason is because we mostly have people on the county commission that come from development, and they only see economics from a perspective of brick and mortar communities, and that is also fueled by corruption. We just do not. We have a county commission that's focusing on following the will of a few people that contribute to their campaigns, and that's it. And, I don't ever like to say bad things about people, or, think what their intentions are or are not. But I see all of the developer money that's pouring into my opponent, Christian Ziegler's campaign. And he's a young man, just 34 years old, climbing the political ladder. And the way you climb the political ladder is by, pretty much being a dumb monkey and just saying yes whenever you're supposed to say yes. And then people, help you climb the ladder. And, that's not me. One, I can't even pretend to be a dumb monkey. And two, I'm just not going to do that. And I don't have any political ladder to climb. I am running for county commissioner because of all these reasons we talk about. I'm tired of the people being silenced. I'm tired of watching the ecological systems be destroyed all around our county. I'm a botanist. I'm a trained botanist, and I have expertise in the ecological systems of Southwest Florida. When I drive through this community, I don't just see green. I see every habitat, every tree, every weed, everything that's happening to the environmental systems. And you cannot protect the environment if you don't understand the environment. And that's the biggest reason. There's a lot of reasons, but we really need somebody on the county commission who understands ecological systems, because the understanding even that the government, even that Sarasota County government has of ecological systems needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And Rhonda, do you mind if I follow up on a question with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, and I hope it's okay if I call you Alex instead of Alexandra. You were very much involved, as were you, Lourdes, with the celery fields. And I just want to know, can you tell people this is a county-wide election? And once again, you are running county-wide. We are here in South County because you will be representing people in Englewood, Venice, and Northport, which is where we mostly transmit to. We are also heard on the internet. So can you give people in Northport, Venice, and Englewood who might not ordinarily follow county politics an idea of what the celery fields was all about?
Sure.
The celery fields go back a little ways, and it was basically polluted back when by a government not a government entity, but by a private entity, and the land became contaminated, and eventually they had to shut it down and had to clean it up, and it took a lot of money and effort to clean that because of the pollution that had occurred. And that land, I believe, Alex, you know a lot about it, where they shoved all of it and made a big mound out there and, made it look pretty. It's like any kind of private entity that contaminates the land. They'll make it pretty, let it sit till the people forget about it, and then they'll want to develop on it. And that's pretty much what, in a nutshell, what's going on. My main concern is we as voters, we as citizens have got to protect our land, and we've got to be more involved and engaged, and stop electing individuals just because they put out a spew that makes it sound warm and fuzzy, or they get social media out there and put out a bunch of lies, and they really don't do their research. People have got to come together, and this is what we need from our elected officials who go out there. They've got to educate. They've got to tell the people of what's happening in this country, and especially in our local area. It will be not very long before it's all going to be lost. Our greenways will be lost to developers. That's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Rhonda.
And thank you. I think whatever happens in one part of the county is just an indicator what can happen anywhere. And I think it is important to look at what happened at the celery fields and say, wow, can it happen here? Northport has a lot of green space. And the celery fields is now a birding sanctuary. Audubon built a building there so they can go birding. And when you go and drive by, you'll see tons of locals walking the neighborhood and checking out birds. And it's a beautiful park-like setting. The county owned property nearby and decided, because they're running out of money, to sell those parcels. And one person who wanted to buy the parcels, well, his job is industrial waste recycling. So they take concrete from demolitions and they crush it. And the people, of course, around the celery fields were worried about the celery fields and, of course, of all those neighborhoods. I mean, when you have these mounds and mounds of, hundreds of tons of concrete, I'm sure full of lead and all other contaminants, going into an area where right now it's a park and it's a birding sanctuary and it's going to blow everywhere, they didn't want it there. So they fought the county's sale of that parcel to this developer. And the developer has a small parcel. He's still going to do a transfer station, but at least he's not going to crush the industrial waste at that site. But he still has an option there, and that's one of the threats. It was voted down 3-2, which is awfully close. The two people who voted for it, one of them is my opponent, Al Mayo, and I'm sure one of the reasons why that developer of that crushing facility gave him almost 10 checks of the maximum amount from all his LLCs, and he even has my opponent having his meetings in his office officially. It's because he want him to come back to have that yes vote so that he can put in and do another bid and get that parcel. But that's just an indicator. It can happen here in Northport. It can happen in Englewood. So when you start seeing that that particular public hearing, it was overwhelming with people, so much so they had rooms on either side of the commission chambers filled and people outside, and yet you see someone who votes yes for the developer, you know that the fix is in, and so you have to worry about, okay, what about my park? What about Warm Mineral Springs? What about all our green space? All of that is threatened. So that's one thing that you have to keep an eye on when it comes to celery fields. Is yes, it was happening in North County, but it can happen here.
I think it's nice that the caller brought up both of those two places, Warm Mineral Springs and the celery fields, because they're two very different ecological systems. Warm Mineral Springs is, of course, a natural gem of a habitat that has been damaged by poor management and is now under threat by development, and it doesn't need to be under threat. I do think, although I love the charming little 1950s little resort that's out front, I do think that the right development for Warm Mineral Springs could be a huge ecological engine for Warm Mineral Springs. There's some very important issues there. Part of the land is owned by the city of Northport. Part of the adjacent land is owned by the county. That requires,
Quickly, the city purchased the entire.
They did.
Oh, see, I thought that they didn't. Well, okay. Well, still, the county and the city need to learn how to cooperate on those things, but I thought that was both of them. And so then the other aspect so that's important. It's important that the right kind of development go into Warm Mineral Springs. And then as far as the celery fields, like Rhonda said, the celery fields is contaminated. It was an ancient prehistoric lake. It was then used for agriculture because it had such rich soil because of its history being a prehistoric lake. And then when the county decided to turn it into stormwater management, what it's become is a mitigated wetland. And it's now become this bird habitat when that was not the original intention of it. So I think it is an opportunity for us to really learn how to handle those types of systems, because there's so much threat, particularly to the wetland systems in Sarasota County. And this word mitigating wetlands, that phrase has always bothered me, but I've started to talk to some environmentalists who have shared with me some positive outcomes for mitigated wetlands. And I think a lot of that data on some of these other positive outcomes for mitigated wetlands could be applied to the celery fields. And then we could turn that into a real ecological gem if that was managed properly by the county.
Thank you, Alexandra. And before we continue on, I just want to make sure everybody out there knows that this is a special live edition of Can We Talk. This is a Sarasota County Candidate Forum. 2 of the 4 candidates for the seat 4 and 2, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Responded to 2 of the invitations I sent, and that is Lourdes Ramirez and Alexandra Coe. They are here live answering questions from the public, mostly South County. Their opponents, Al Mayo and Christian Ziegler, have not contacted me, even though I sent 2 invitations. I want it to be very clearly understood this is a community radio event, and so I wanted to really thank both of you for showing up and answering the questions of the community. And there's another question from a gentleman, but before he asks, I think Lourdes wanted to say something.
Well, I wanted to point out something very important that happened last week to show how important it is to have the right county commission in office. And we have a charter, the county charter, and we all get to vote for changes to the county charter. And that's our own constitution. And it's how our government is run. Last week, the county commission made a motion that's going to come up that it's really important for the people to know. There are 4 ways to put a ballot amendment to change our county charter. 3 of those ways include people who are in their air conditioning rooms and their leather chairs, and they can make a motion and staff can run off and write the language so it could be put before us on the ballot. And those are the county commission, the legislature, and the charter review board. It's very easy for them to make a proposal to change their charter. Now, the 4th way to change the charter is by citizen initiative. And that's pretty difficult because I've done citizen petitions. So what you have to do as a citizen is first you have to come up with the language, hire a lawyer, raise funds, pay for the lawyer to look over the language, go out and get 5% of the voters, which is 15,000 signatures, to agree to sign the petition. Then you have to pay for verification of those petitions at the supervisor of elections, then raise funds so you can campaign and have your petition pass. And it takes time, a lot of sweat, tears, and a lot of effort by volunteers. Well, there's 2 petitions coming up in November by citizen initiatives, and apparently the county commission looked at these 2 initiatives and thought that the citizen had it too easy. So they decided they wanted to change the process for citizens to put amendments on the ballot, and so they want to change it from 5% of the public to now 10%. So instead of 15,000 to 30,000, and now that you have to submit it in a period of 18 months. And they're just putting obstacles. And I know my biggest concern is these are supposed to be Republican county commissioners who are supposed to be protecting citizens' rights, protecting our individual freedoms, and not adding regulations. And what they're doing is making it difficult. You notice that they're not adding regulations to how they put amendments on the ballot, but boy, they're adding quite a few regulations just because citizens decided to challenge them on the ballot. So I think it's something that we have to pay attention to. On August 29th, the day after the primary, there's going to be a public hearing, and I think it's so important that the people realize that we don't have a county commission that's looking out for us. And that's the right reason why Alex and I are running, because we need people up there to stand up for the citizen. And I was so angry when I heard that, I couldn't hardly sleep, because you don't impede on citizens' rights. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's one of those races people don't pay much attention to, the charter review, but it's really important because those people are the guardians of our Constitution.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, you had somebody who wanted to ask a question. I didn't mean to intervene, but I
You know, it's so important to get this information out, and you all are welcome to come back at another time before the primary, and because you really are getting crucial information out to the people. And I will say that here in the city of Northport, the commissioners have rewritten the state constitution, so to speak. It's called the charter, and they are going to put it out in whole to the voters, and from what I understand, one sentence, take the whole thing or take nothing, and they wrote it. They did not accept the recommendations of the Charter Review Advisory Board, so I hope you don't mind my throwing that in. We have another gentleman that wants to ask a question, if it's okay with you all.
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. And what's your name?
My name is Jeff. Good afternoon. As a Northport resident, our current city commission is reviewing the city's budget this week. Actually, it's going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. And that was in today's Sun newspaper. Our city commissioners are proposing to raise the millage rate to pay for a $12 million pool. Plus, they want to further increase city staff to include a second assistant city manager. With that in mind, Sarasota County has faced and will face budget deficits. What projects or programs, if any, would you consider cutting in order to balance the county budget?
Oh, goodness.
The one thing that we have to stop.
And your Lourdes.
My name is Lourdes. The one thing I think we have to stop doing is stop giving money for the Benderson Park. It's something we should take over. We've been giving money to the group that is a independent from the county
Sanka.
group called Sanka money, and they usually get $800,000 to manage our park, and now they're asking. Last time they asked for $2.2 million. I think we should just take over the park. You know, Sanka shouldn't have control over that park. That is our park, and then and it's not going to cost us not even $800,000. And they've been losing money all this long, and the money we're pouring in to that park, it doesn't seem fair. It seems like we're spending much more money at that park than we do down here in Northport. So that's the one thing I want to prioritize, how we're spending our money, and I think that park has to be scrutinized, and we have to eliminate the Sanka and have our own people who can handle it, handle that park.
Yeah, you know, that park has had a trailer full of people making six-figure incomes off of our taxpayer dollars for a long time. Yes, I know a lot of stuff about Sanka. And it's actually listed as one of the priorities, one of our legislative priorities, and that needs to be removed immediately. That park, I live right down the street from the park. That park doesn't allow access to our rowing teams for them to practice. That should be, that should be a real community park, and it's not. People should be able to go there and kayak. They should be able to learn how to paddleboard. That should be a big recreational place, and it's not. I think that Nathan Benderson Park is a good example of a failed public-private partnership. And the sooner that we sever the ties with Benderson and Sanka, I think the better. To address the question, one thing I would say about the budget, the government is like a teenager with too much allowance. And the only way you fix that is you take away the money. And when you take away the money, all of a sudden, priorities shift. And that's what I see in our current government is the priorities are in the wrong place. Like when Lourdes said we spent $27 million to redo Siesta Key, we could have put that money into River Road. They want to spend all this money doing all these other projects when there's other things that the people want instead. We need people on the county commission who are going to listen to the people. That is their job. The county commission is not necessarily government. Government in Sarasota already dysfunctions on its own. The county commission is supposed to be there to meet with government, to accept these proposals for development and all these other things, and they're supposed to make decisions for us. The question in every single county commissioner's mind, every time they are voting, should be, is this good for the people of Sarasota County? Will this improve the quality of life of the people here? Is this what the citizens want? And I've been to many, many county commission meetings, and I would say most of the time, those questions don't even enter their head. So we need to shift the priorities of what we're doing, and that's the way we balance the budget. We pay for those things that we really need, and everything else we just leave. Because if we do nothing, Sarasota's not going to suffer from doing nothing.
We're coming to an end of our very special program, and I truly appreciate Lourdes Ramirez and Alexandra Coe taking time to come all the way down here to South County, Sarasota, and I think we kind of ran out of time to ask questions, so I want to leave enough time for you to make closing statements. But if you could make sure in your closing statements to give people a way to contact you. And so let's have at it. Lourdes, you want to go first?
Yes. Again, my name is Lourdes Ramirez. I'm running for Sarasota County Commission. My website is www.electlourdesramirez.com. That's ELECT. Lourdes is LOURDES. Ramirez, RAMIREZ.com. And the thing is, I'm running. And I know, like I said, we're running because we want to represent the citizens. And I know for a fact that there's nothing more that will make me happy is to see Sarasota prosper. But it has to be done fairly. It has to be done so that our community can benefit. And that's the reason why I'm running for Sarasota County Commission. I want to be able to represent the citizens on the county commission.
And I'm Alexandra Coe, running for District 2. You can go to my website, alexandracoe.com, find out more about me. My phone number is actually there. You can call me on my cell phone and speak with me. I'm running for County Commissioner to represent us, the people of Sarasota. I will be 100% accessible to the people. I will carry what the people's wishes are into Sarasota County government. This election is critical. I cannot express how critical this primary is. The future of Sarasota County is really at stake. And if we do not like what we're seeing, we have to change. We have to do something different. And those of us that are not funded by the developers, we do need your support. If every person that is registered to vote in Sarasota County just gave $5 to the candidates that they believe in, we could easily defeat these development-funded candidates. We could get our message out to the people. That's one of the hardest things. And we so appreciate Cheryl for creating this radio broadcast so that you can learn more about us as candidates. It's a big county. Also in relationship to that, there's issues that are charter issues that Lourdes so eloquently discussed the current dilemma with the charter. Single member districts is coming up. That would mean that I would only have to run in District 2. That would make campaigning a little easier. People believe it would eliminate some of the corruption that we currently have in countywide elections. So please reach out to me, alexandraco.com. I'm also on Facebook at Elect Alexandra Co. And I'm running for the people.
I've just been given word that we have another 4 minutes, so
I
go
want
ahead.
to add something
Yes.
to what Alex just mentioned about the charter review. And I think it's important that every race that you look at, really do your research on the people, because believe it or not, we were talking about the guy who wanted to put that industrial dump on the celery fields, and yet he's running for charter review board. So you want to be sure you're not voting for him, of course. So really look at every race and look our information up. And it's really important, because we are grassroots, that you spread the word, that we're out there, and word of mouth is going to be really important.
Yeah, I say that to people that I talk to, I say if you can contribute to the campaign, great, and otherwise just tell your friends that you met us, that you spoke with us, that you heard about us, and, together we can change the dynamic of what we see in Sarasota County.
Okay, we have 2 minutes, and I'm going to squeeze in one last question.
Okay.
Alexandra, you brought up the legislative priorities. Can you quickly, within 2 minutes, both of you explain what the legislative priorities are and if you agree with them?
Oh, you can, well, we'll do this together, I guess.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, you can go to the website, Sarasota County's, sc.gov. You can go there and you can look up legislative priorities, and it'll give you a list of those things. I don't remember offhand exactly what all of them are.
And these are priorities as far as Tallahassee?
No, these are priorities for Sarasota County.
Oh,
These are
okay.
the listed priorities, and to support Nathan Benderson Park is one of them. That's the one I would eliminate first. But it's a variety of things that are the assumed priorities of the county, and I would encourage all of the listeners to go online and read those, and then write to us. I would really like somebody to write to us and say, wow, I don't like this priority and I don't like this priority, because they're not in line necessarily with the people.
And I agree with Alex on what our priorities should be. It really should be now, especially, is how do we deal with the roads? Because when I hear about all these projects that have already been approved, and there's still more in the pipeline, there's the Siesta Promenade that they want to double the density. I can't imagine how that corner of Stickney Point and US 41 is going to look like, knowing how it looks now. So I really think that we have to start to look at our priorities and say, okay, what do we do with what we have now, and stop approving constantly new increases, not stopping development. It's there. How do we stop always asking for these special exceptions?
Well, and also,
we sorry about that. We've got to stop.
we gotta stop.
Thank you all very much
all right,
for joining us.
thank you so
here.
much.
Thank you.
Lourdes Ramirez and Alexandra Coe. Join us again on Friday from 4 to 5 for a retransmission of this broadcast again. Thank you for joining us on Can We Talk Live, and I'm Cheryl Cook.